Tiptoe around with face of a stranger. Quiet observer, never get too close. I see the world, but it's through this window. Another side to see, I'm ready to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. He's from the city, she's from the south. Two different chapters told miles out. Their back row living in his White House. So many stories that I need to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. So many stories right in front of me. Some people climb to heights I've never seen. Too many falling down off their feet. These stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Tiptoe around with face of a stranger. Quiet observer, never get too close. I see the world, but it's through this window. Another side to see, I'm ready to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. He's from the city, she's from the south. Two different chapters told miles out. Their back row living in his White House. So many stories
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the internet, your main presentation, Silverline Live, pencilless.
Hello, everybody. That was such a much more reserved version.
It's the BBC PBS.
That's right.
It's the late night television since you're coming in 10 minutes later.
So hello, everyone, and welcome to Silverline Live. This is issue 11. And tonight is going to be another one of our craft segments. We're going to talk about pencilers and talk to pencilers and talk about how they start the page. What are some of the things they do when they first dive into a page? And so hopefully some of you will have some questions. You can ask the hard ones of the pencilers because they're kind of the rock stars of the comic book creative community. So except for Tommy, Tommy's always the rock star wherever he goes. So we're going to do what we used to do, and I'll go through the murderer's row here and have everyone introduce themselves. Some of them are just here to say hi and remind you that they're still here and alive and kicking and working on cool Silverline projects. And then we'll talk about a Kickstarter, which is still going on. But first on my list here is Kurtis. Kurtis, tell everybody who you are.
Hello, I am Kurtis Fujita. I'm an illustrator, animator, and concept designer, and I am currently the editor on the K-List comic book for Silverline and the creative director.
Nice. And next on my row, I need to see what's being shown up there. Is Becca. Becca.
Hello.
Tell everybody who you are.
I'm Rebecca Winslow. I'm an inker and colorist for Friar Rush, Marauder, and that's what I'm coloring, and inking Something Big for Silverline.
Which is the actual title, right?
Yes, that is the title of the book.
It's something big, but it's also something big.
Secret, like, ooh, what am I working on? No, that's the title.
just let me say it's something big.
That's right. I think when we boil it down to, we're gonna have to blame Sid for this because I expect that we're going to be doing this for months to come. We're just gonna have to say it was his fault, right? It was his fault.
That guy.
That's
Take
right.
me away. I did it.
Next on the list is Tim. Tim, tell everybody who you are.
Hello, everyone. I am Tim TK, your resident associate editor, producer, and talk show voice person, I guess.
And band leader.
And yes.
The director.
I'm just off to the side riffing half the time. I help manage things around the Silverline website, including running the craft series. I am also working as editor on 2 different titles right now. And oh no, something redacted. Something else is happening. Oh no.
Yeah. Another cool thing just happened, right?
Another cool thing, very cool thing happened.
Yeah. We'll wait a couple of weeks before we talk
It'll
about that.
take some time.
Yeah. So, but it is a cool thing.
Something big.
Thank you. Yeah, something big. Okay. Next on my list here is Barb. Barb, tell everyone who you are.
Hi, everyone. I'm Barb Kaalberg. I am the inker on Cat and Mouse, the creator, writer or co-writer, and inker for one of the books on the current Kickstarter, which is Divinity, and I am the colorist on Sirens, and I'm also the CFO of Silverline.
That's right. Lots of hats.
Yes.
Sid, tell everybody who you are.
Hi, I'm Sidney Williams. I'm a writer at Silverline, and I wrote Something Big, which we've been talking about, and you'll be seeing some artwork from tonight. I wrote Sirens back in the day, which Barb is coloring beautifully now, and making PG-13.
Trying.
We can say that.
Yes.
And
Just got us kicked off another stream.
can't say PG-13.
Not my fault this time.
I'm also a novelist, and my books include Disciples of the Serpent and Dark Hours, Midnight Eyes, and others from further back in my career.
And so we kind of hinted at it a little bit, but some of the big news we've been talking about as far as our streaming goes is starting next week. Let me pull my calendar up and make sure I'm getting my days correct. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe next week is when we begin to go 3 nights a week with Silverline Live. And so next Wednesday, this time next week, Sid will be the host of Silverline Live, and then after Sid does that on Wednesday, then we'll do Sunday, and then we'll do Monday, and then again. So Sunday stream, we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the stream, but then the Sunday stream, I will host that, and then we'll have a gaggle. We'll kind of split because we've grown so much, which is a cool thing to do. We've grown, so we're just going to kind of split the group up and have a couple of different streams.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Is a gaggle a unit of measure?
Not this much.
It is.
It is of geese.
Yes.
It's a collective noun for comics creators.
Yes.
And it's a collective noun for a lot of things, especially if you're south of the Mason-Dixon line, right? It's a gaggle. And then we'll do our sort of little NPR one-on-one things on Monday. So and what the plan for that is we'll have a one-on-one conversation with a Silverline creator, and then at the same time we'll have someone doing some art so that we don't just sit here and have talking heads. If it's an artist that wants to art at the same time, then we'll do that. If they want to focus on the conversation, then we'll ask someone else to pop on with us and do some art so that we can entertain you visually as well as audibly. So, and that starts next week. So next up is C. Michael Lanning. C. Michael,
Hello.
tell everybody who you are.
Hello, C. Michael Lanning. I'm a penciler for something big and hopefully other future projects. So that's all I got now. So.
All right, very cool.
That's credit.
And you will be doing some of the penciling that we're going to watch tonight, right?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And next on the list here is Thomas Florimonte.
Hello, everybody. Like you said, my name is Thomas Florimonte. I have been a comic creator since we determined last time, somewhere in the early 90s, I guess. But I've done all kind of stuff, but I mostly known for being an inker. I'm currently inking this is towards the end, so I really can't show, so we'll do it wiggly, but that's towards the end of the book, so I don't want you to spoil how that one particularly ends. But it called Trumps that Roland is currently writing. And that's it. I help with a lot of technical stuff. I'm also the co-owner of a printing company called Kablam, so I help with the technical side of stuff for Roland and the gang on getting things ready to get printed.
And if you've gotten any Silverline comics from us in the past at all, you've gotten a printed product from Kablam. They have done all the printing for us on all the things that we have done. Well, I should say all the things, but all the comics we've done, and most of the
titles,
things.
all the titles.
Well, they've done our trading cards and our bookmarks. I think the only thing I can think of at this point in time that they did not do was the stickers.
They did my banner, probably your banner too.
No, I don't think we did.
No.
Did we?
Well, you did mine.
No.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
That's
did.
right. That is right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, they did a banner for me 7-8 years ago. You did my tiny banner. Yeah, it's about this big. No, I'm just kidding. It's for the book tiny.
We did a banner. It was about this big. And you hold it up to the monitor. You know, it looks really.
It looks really good.
It was an animated GIF.
Are we going to do like a book flip book of tiny and something big?
You know, that's an idea.
That's kind of a cool idea.
It is a cool idea. That's why Tim gets paid the big bucks.
Yeah.
Exactly. A whole breeder from Del Taco.
That's right.
Always talking about Delta.
And I would say this:
The
Tommy's
official restaurant of Silverline Comics.
I was going through my Dropbox files, I guess last night, and I realized that Tommy is about almost, right at the halfway mark for completing the first book of Trumps.
Yeah, the first book is some 50 pages, and I'm at 20 right at 20 something.
It'll be 48 pages.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think you're right at 20.
Oh, that's right, because I've already inked about 8 pages of the second part. So
right, that's what I'm saying.
well over
yeah.
halfway. Yeah, that's
yeah.
good.
So I can't do math that quickly, but yeah, I'm thinking that you're over halfway. So you're about to catch up to Thomas Hedgeland.
Don't look too much. Don't look too much.
So
we're not here talking about inks.
Next on the list is Brent Larson. Brent, tell everybody who you are.
I'm Brent Larson. I'm the creator of Kalis, writer on Kalis. I'm the typist on Kalis. I've been involved in comics since about the late 2018s. And what else can I say? That's it.
I do have a Kalis update. I got a message from Lewis, the pencilist for Kalis, and all of the Kickstarter rewards for Kalis 2 went out, except for I think there's five who had art rewards that did not go out yet. And I got a message from Lewis today, an email from him today, which is probably he probably sent it yesterday, that he has been driving around looking for a post office that is open, and he has not been able to find an open post office because Lewis is in Argentina, and they are still experiencing a massive shutdown there. I won't go to greatly to links, but he went on and on and on about how terrible his government was and not being able to get the pages out. So he did offer an apology to the ones who, if you are watching or watch the replay, he did offer an apology that he has not been able to get those out, but there's really nothing he can do. So for those 5 of you who are still waiting, we apologize for that. Bye, Becca. And so hopefully we can get those as soon as possible and get those out to you. Next on the list here, he's muted, and we probably will not see his face for the duration of this stream, but we will certainly hear his voice. We might see his face. Is Alex. Alex, tell everybody who you are.
Hello, my name is Alex Gallimore, and I'm the penciler or pencilist of Cat and Mouse, as well as various different Silverline Comics covers, and some more Silverline projects in the future.
That's right. I will say this, Alex and I swap a lot of messages, and Alex's his brain I'm not sure when Alex sleeps, but his brain just constantly goes, and he's sending me, how about this? How about this? How about this? How about this? I want to do this after this. I want to do this after this. Here I am playing the keyboard like I'm typing, right? So that's pretty cool, and I appreciate that. And Alex has also been one of our huge recruiters, and bring a lot of his colleagues from the Kubert School. And so we're going to be seeing, we've already seen, but we'll see an influx of some Cubies. And a lot of really talented folks coming out of the Kubert School, which is pretty exciting to see. Next on the list then is Aaron Humphres. Aaron, tell everybody who you are.
Yeah, I'm the upcoming penciler on Fire Rush. And right now I'm doing my own comic Goblins, which that's a page I'll be starting tonight for the penciler stuff. Cool. And so I color, draw, write, ink, I do all sorts of stuff. But I'm penciling for Silverline. That's what I do for that.
Yeah. And so we should also be quick to say one of the reasons that you're penciling Godlings tonight and not Fire Rush is because Fire Rush is done. It's finished.
It's all done.
It's done. This is one of the things, Barb and I talked a little bit about this last night. This is one of the things that if you've been following Silverline at all, when we kickstart, one of the things that's important to us is that our books are finished. And this is just kind of a roundabout example of, this book is already done. In fact, I mentioned last night, the Kickstarter that we'll be running in July, both of those books are already completely finished. We could theoretically print them right now and ship them, but they're both already, written, penciled, inked, lettered, colored. In fact, if you're a reviewer out there and you want review copies, let me know. I'm not going to send them to you yet, but I'll schedule my send to you so that it hits when our Kickstarter does, and I can send those to you. Absolutely. So yeah. So thanks for joining us, Aaron.
Yeah, no problem.
And last but not least is Sid. Sid, tell everybody who you are.
You talked to me already.
Oh, what happened is my list must have switched around then.
When Becca left, maybe it reconfigured.
Oh, so did I get everybody then? I did, huh?
I think that was everybody.
Okay. And me. I am Roland, and I am kind of the head wrangler here. I used to hear someone say chief cook and bottle washer, and that's me. But I write cat herder. I write cat and mouse, and some other upcoming Trumps, which is Tommy mentioned, and some other upcoming stuff. So yes, I did. I see chats popping up here, but I don't see. Okay. Yes, got everybody. So, okay. So the next thing we need to talk about is we need to talk about the Silverline double feature Kickstarter that is going on right now. And Tim, if you could pull that up and show everybody, so if they're not familiar with it, do you need the link?
I should already have it. Let me.
Okay.
You might have to kick off the share screen.
Okay. So
no, I can get with the share screen on.
Okay.
Yep.
So I am looking at the page right now, and we stand at 106 backers, 3,903. And I think, what did I tell you a while ago? 65%. So we have 9 days left to go. So we have a little more than a week. And of course, if you know me, I'm the eternal optimist. We got this. We can get this. But we got to have your help. You guys have to. If you haven't backed it yet, I'm asking you go take a peek at it. Consider backing it. Every dollar helps. So if you're like, yeah, but I just can't. I can't do this. Let me scroll down and see what it is. I think it's the $40 for the kick for both of them, right? If you just want the flip book, $18 for that. If you want kind of the whole gaggle of package, right? Then you can get that. That's the $40 version with lots of cool extras. But even if you just want the one book at the $10, you can get Divinity or you get Twilight Grim. Any little bit helps. So pop on over there, give it a look. Again, the books are finished, so I'll beat Barb to that. But the books are finished. We just need to get the funds so that we can print them and so that we can ship them. The only other thing I have left to do for the books before I can send them to the printer is I've got to do. It's cool, Tommy. I got to do the thank you page. So we got to finish the campaign first, and then I'll send out the surveys and say, hey, what name do you want on there? And then I'll do that, and then I can send that to the printer. But every other page is ready to go. So if you can't back it, consider sharing it. Listen, we've all got friends. We all know friends who've got a little more money than they know what to do with. Send it to those friends and say, hey, look, this is a project that's worth backing. You should go look at it, get some cool stuff, some cool rewards in backing it, and help these creators make their goals. So Barb, tell us about Divinity and why everyone watching is going to love Divinity.
Well, have you ever thought about what your life would be like if you had the ability to heal? Now, most people would think that would be such an awesome skill. I mean, and especially in this day and age with everything that's going on right now. But that didn't happen when I first came up with the idea a year and a half ago. I've always thought it would be a cool skill to be able to heal, but I got this really thinking about it, and I'm not so sure it would be a cool skill. I mean, would it be a blessing or a curse? I think it would be more of a curse. So I took this idea, and the idea popped in my head one night for Divinity. Divinity is an 11-year-old girl. She's had a near-death experience and all of a sudden developed this healing ability. And then her parents are killed under mysterious circumstances. Her much older brother, he's 24, a Marine, is given a hardship discharge to come home and become her guardian. And he's also suspicious about how his dad and stepmom died. So he starts to look into it, and it's looking very, very weird the way that they died. And then stuff happens, and all of a sudden he has to take his little sister and go on the run. He finds out that she's got this ability, and things start to fall into place. And they end up, in the first issue, they end up on the run, and the overarching villain on the whole book is an evil cabal who want to get their hands on divinity. The concept is that it's going to be a kind of a roadshow type thing, where that we have smaller plot lines. Think the Hulk TV show, where you had the Hulk running into David Banner running into problems on each show, but mainly he was running from one big baddie, but he would solve little problems along the way. And that's what I'm thinking of for divinity, having pharmaceutical companies or religious fanatics, mafia want to get their hand on her. So they eventually hook up with another Marine, Olivia Barnes, and they could become this trio who go on the run, and they have to protect divinity. I have a wonderful, wonderful penciler. His name is Alex Sarabia. The colors are by Steve Matson, legendary. He did Boris the Bear. I'm sure that went over a lot of people's head.
Yeah.
No, I remember Boris the Bear. I had him.
I know. He's awesome. I talked him out of colorist retirement to come back on board. And the book is done. And
you really had to kind of drag him.
Oh, I did.
But I think he's had a lot of fun since coming back.
I did. R.A. Jones has helped me co-script it, because while I'm a writer, I am not a comic book scripter. I came up with the plot, the characters, the story, and everything like that. But I needed help on scripting. So I drug R.A. into that. So this is kind of a double R.A. project here, because he's the writer on Twilight Brim. So I really would appreciate if you would take a look at the Kickstarter, take a look at the art. I'm going to be throwing in some mainstream art, Deadpool, Ms. Marvel, and Captain America with Spider-Man, to kind of sweeten the pot a bit. So look for that soon. And if you can't participate, then please think about sharing, because that is a huge thing to help us, is to share the links.
Yeah, we need the signal to get out there. Tim, I'm gonna on the right hand side there, you'll notice that there's the pledges. I'm gonna run down those pretty quickly. If you just kind of want to scoot with me. So for those of you who are considering, notice that you can get just a PDF of the individual comics. If you just want to, if you're Barb's friend, you don't have a lot of money, and you just want to support her, you can get the PDF of Divinity #1, $4. You do the same thing for Twilight Brim. You get the just the PDF. The better deal, of course, is to go get both books. You can get both books, the PDF for $8. Then your first print level is a $10 print level. And that's when you can get the either Divinity #1 or Twilight Brim. You choose which one you want, but you're just getting the one book. Or you can get the flip book, and this is where I think people get kind of excited, because it is old school flip book. And what we mean by that is that let me get a comic here so I can demonstrate.
That's the one I bought.
Yeah, there you go. So flip book is you got it on one side, right? You can read it like this, and then literally you flip the book over, and you've got a new number, a new cover, and you just read like that. Stories meet in the middle, obviously. So an old school flip book, and that's kind of the sweet spot there. You can get that without any signatures or anything. That's $18. The next one along the line then is the $25 package that you get some of the extras. We're going to include the scripts, some sketches that we've got, and signature cards. You're going to get signatures from RA and from Barb. And then the next level is our flip I wanted to call it Flippies and Floppies, but I didn't. I said Flip Book and Floppies. But it really should have been. I should have gone with my gut because Flippies and Floppies, right? That's $33. That's when you get the double feature as a flip book, but then you also get get them individual. So that's for the collectors who like to have the different versions. And then we have the retro indie versions where you get what I just mentioned, plus you get the traditional 1980s style black and white independent comic. You get a color cover, but the interiors are all black and white. And then of course we have several original art pages left. We have original art pages from Divinity, and we have original art pages from Twilight Grim left. There's several there. I'm not going to go over each of them. The original art for the Twilight Grim Kickstarter cover is still available, and that's by Alex, who is here tonight. And again, there's still some other really good stuff. For those of you who aren't real familiar with Kickstarter, you get an exclusive cover. By supporting the Kickstarter, you're going to get an exclusive cover. Now, what does that mean to you? Well, it means that we're not going to use that artwork as a cover on any other book. Now, it doesn't mean we won't make a print of it. Doesn't mean we won't put it on the inside as a pinup. But this is going to be the only time you're going to get that piece of artwork as a cover on one of our books. Eventually, our plan is to get our comics into the retail stores. And when that happens, you're going to be holding an exclusive edition. You're going to be holding an edition that has a rarer version of the book that's going to have a Kickstarter exclusive cover. And then there will be a different cover for all of what goes into the retail shop. So yeah, check us out. Like I said, we've kind of roughly guesstimated that we think we need about 175 backers to make this, and the math is not my strong suit. And of course, it certainly all depends on the levels at which the backers. If everybody comes in and just gets a PDF, then we'll probably need more than 175. But if ever the average, I think the average backer Kickstarter tells us is about $25. So if we can kind of do the average there, 175 should get us there. And at 106, that means we need 69 more. So sorry, I couldn't do the math. I had to figure out the math. So that's not an impossible number. We just need you to get out there, take a peek at it. Okay. So anything else before we jump on to the craft segment?
Just might mention, Roland, that we have a Reddit presence and we're building that up. And if anybody's social media presence is Reddit, look for Silverline Comics, and we'll would love to have you there, and we'll build that presence up as well.
Absolutely. Yep. We do have Sid's been working hard on the Silverline Reddit presence. So I think we posted about that today on the Silverline Facebook page. So and I'll try to put that. Sid help me remember, and I'll try to put that information in with our YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
Did we ever get to be live on YouTube?
No. YouTube still says they have not received data.
No. So we are coming to you only via Twitch and Facebook right now. So so those of you who are joining us on Twitch and Facebook, thank you. Not sure what's going on with YouTube. I guess after they cut us off last week, they kind of got mad at us.
After we were banned from YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah, we may have to start pushing that. Hey, we've been banned from YouTube. Come watch us on Twitch and Facebook. Maybe that'll push some people there.
All right, I'm going to say goodnight to everybody and let you get on with the penciling portion. So
I think I will too.
Me three.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mass exodus here.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I'll leave you to it.
All right. So so as you know, if you've been watching some of our streams, you know that what we're trying to do here is a craft segment. So every other week, we're talking about some craft aspect of making comics. So far, we've talked about some writing stuff. We've talked about some inking stuff. We've talked about coloring. Tonight we're going to talk about penciling, and we'll talk about what we're doing is this is not a broad thing. It's a specific thing. So tonight what we're going to do is talk about starting a page. If you're a penciler, what do you do when you start a page? Now, I didn't think about this until too late, but most pencilers I know actually do thumbnails. So we may actually come back and do a thumbnail segment, but I did not prepare these guys for a thumbnail segment. So we're going to assume, do you all work from thumbnails? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to assume these guys have their thumbnails, and now they're going to use these thumbnails, and they're going to put the artwork on the page. So who wants to go first? Actually, I'm going to pick on Alex. Come on, Alex. Alex may have stepped away. No, there he is. Okay. So Alex, talk to us. After you've got your thumbnails, you've got a blank piece of paper in front of you. What's the first thing you do?
Well, I'll just show off my thumbnails. I printed them out. I do them digitally.
Okay.
So
you do them digitally and then you print them out?
Correct.
Okay.
So the page that I've already kind of did some minor layouts, but I can kind of talk my way through the process. So I just have a basic thumbnail with just some quick shapes of everything that's happening. And the way I start is I take a blank piece of paper, a piece of Bristol printed by Kablam.
Yeah.
And I go ahead and I pencil, and then I also ink the panel borders. A lot of people don't ink the panel borders. It's up to you. I just do it so I know, it's just easier for when I'm erasing stuff and moving stuff around. And there's always whiteout, so it doesn't really bother me. And so then I go in and I look at my layout or my thumbnail, and I decide on if I need to make minor changes here and there. And I do a quick, gesture with a 3H pencil, just basic. Cool. And then I go in and I tighten that up further with an HB, and then use a kneaded eraser to kind of lighten it up and get to the next level. And eventually I then go ahead and I pencil with a F pencil. These are the ones I'm using right now. Mm-hmm. And it ends up looking like this. So that's sort of the general process of how a page gets finished.
So let's go back to the panel borders. Not very many pencilers actually ink the panel borders, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So what is your thought process, and why did you decide that you want to ink panel borders in?
When I was going to school, Keyword School, I would just pencil them in, and at the end of finishing a page, I would then have to go in and re-pencil everything, all the panel borders, just because, while drawing a page, you have the tendency to erase over the panel border, and it gets lost, and I found that annoying. So I think at the end of my first year, I just started inking my panel borders just so I wouldn't have to do that.
So that's interesting. So it's not like a how can I say this? It's not like you don't trust the people who come after you to put the panel borders where you want them or anything like that, right?
Oh, no, yeah.
It's for you.
It's merely just because I'm lazy and I don't want to re-pencil the panel borders once I'm finished with the pencils. So.
Gotcha. So when you do your when you go from your thumbnails onto the page, one of the things that I teach my students, even though my students are writing students, one of the things I want them to understand is the idea of directional flow and how the Z pattern is supposed to work on the page. How do you when you're translating from your I don't know what else you might call it, but when you're translating from the thumbnails onto the page, what do you do? How do you take those things into consideration, putting them on the page?
So generally that I'll work out in the thumbnails.
Okay.
That's why I do them digitally, so I can move stuff around, change things. If I want to do a stat panel, it's it's easy to do it. If I want to try certain things, I can do that instead of grabbing out a piece of paper. And kind of figuring out the flow of everything and certain objects and how the reader would view it is also something I would do in the thumbnails. Also, I would probably blow these up and then do roughs. However, my printer isn't working, so I can't do that. But that's what I would do to take that to the next level and make sure everything reads fully. Instead, I'm just doing that as I go. If I need to make changes, I got an eraser, and that can happen. But so generally, all that stuff I do in the thumbnail phase.
Gotcha. And then you almost go from your thumbnails to the full. Those aren't really thumbnails. So you call them gestures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of go thumbnails to full page gestures.
Correct. It's basically just full size rough.
Gotcha. Very cool. All right, we'll move on to Aaron. Aaron looks like he's been working with a ruler there.
Yes.
So what about you, Aaron? After you've got your thumbnails
all set up and stuff, what I usually do, I'm a little different of a penciler. So this is, you can see my.
That's why we do this. We're trying to
I know, which is interesting.
So the idea
that's the most
is
fascinating part.
I don't know if you heard. I don't know if you were able to see any of the other streams, but the idea obviously is that no artist is the same. No one actually does, or I shouldn't say no one. We don't tackle these things exactly the same, and so part of what we're trying to do is show those who are still trying to make their break into the industry is that look, it's the final product that really matters, but how you get to point Z from point A is really doesn't matter as long as it works for you. So we want to show the different ways that the Silverline artists do it to show other artists out there, oh, look, Alex did it this way and Aaron did it this way and C. Michael did it this way. And it's all a little bit different. My way is a little bit different, but it's still okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So and that's the most fascinating thing about it.
Yeah, I think so. Do you have some thumbs that you can pop up and let us see real quick?
These are thumbnails. They might be really loose. My thumbnails are looser. I even got in trouble with this in school years ago because somebody asked me to do thumbnails and I did them really loose. And he's like, well, that's not, they're just for me. So, it would basically just be me. Like, you're not going to make sense of these, but it would make more sense when I translate this to the page. But once I'm done with my thumbnails, what I do to start a page is I work a little differently. I used to use Bristol board, but now I actually use cardstock from a photocopy place. I know that's really weird.
That is weird.
It is a little different.
So why do you do that?
I do it one because it's cheaper and because strangely enough, the paper takes the pencil more darker. And I'm looking for that. I'm one of the rare, for my comic book, the one I'm doing now, I do ink or have my stuff inked a lot, but for this particular comic, I'm not inking it.
Okay.
So it is the pencils will be the final artwork. And so basically when I get it done, and you can buy, I basically also draw on this like piece of cardboard, which is the backing of a drawing tablet. I just tear the cardboard off, but the cardboard is soft enough that it gives a give. So it allows me to press the pencil a little into the paper to give a sort of like indentation to make it a little darker. But I measure my own pages. And if you want to know the secret measurements that I use, it's always from top to bottom, it would be 1 inch from the edge of the page to the top, 1/2 inch on the sides, and about 3 millimeters for the panel or the gutters between the panel borders. And I just looked those up online and I just realized, because I used to get pre-measured stuff, and I'm not going to do it myself, then I would just.
So I have 2 questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an 11 by 17?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And why did you use metric for the gutters and non-metric for the outside?
Strangely enough, it just what basically looked like, I was like, okay, 1 inch, 1/2 inch. And then when I went inside, I just kind of measured the gutters as like, well, that looks good enough. I think I've seen gutters go different measurements all over the place, but that seemed to be like, that's good enough. So I'll stick with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. You know,
Yeah,
the
you're
funny
like
thing is,
inch on the outside, millimeters on the gutters. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Why? What?
yeah, it's like 330, like, was it 330, 30 something two of an inch? I don't know. I didn't even look at. I didn't even know how to say that. So I went millimeters. Translating it. Eventually,
Okay.
my pages will move into something like this. This is a page I finished last night. This is actually the page before this one.
Okay.
And I would do basically my pencils would get to the point like this. And then eventually it gets to, this is a different page, it gets to a comic book what looks like this. And the way I'm able to get the lines so dark is I actually photocopy the pages. And photocopying is strange enough. It's like, oh yeah, everybody does that. And that's kind of important a little bit. I used to work in a photocopy place, and photocopiers would turn pencils into black.
Right.
Because the photocopy doesn't understand gray. So if you do pencils dark enough, if you do like all the lines dark enough and pretty solid, it's going to translate on the black, and you can make it darker. Then you scan it into the computer, you adjust the levels, make it even darker, and then you have pretty much pencil lines that look like ink lines, and you can fake it. And I'm not saying you should do this for this works for this comic in particular. I still enjoy ink comics. I still plan to ink my next comic, but just this comic.
Gotcha.
A little different.
Cool.
That's the way I'm doing that. So, and then usually, I mean, I'm not sure if you want to see me start drawing, but usually when I start drawing, I start putting in like masses of shapes. So I put in the general idea.
We do. Yeah. Yeah. If you're comfortable.
So this would be like the ground. And this would be like very, like almost like huge ovals. Like this is where this character, and I would be measuring now the general like height, and like, okay, this is, and I have a very weird way I do my characters. I do like these sort of squares with the spine in the middle. And I hope this is showing up. I try to go light, so I hope the lightness is showing up a little bit. And then I do, and she goes down about the knees, and then down to, and then I just kind of play with her, but I would go through that. And so I would start out light enough like this. And so very geometric, squares, cylinders, shapes, add more detail, refine it. But it would be very gestural. And then you just kind of building up from there. And that's usually how I get and then work. I don't have, so I'm not sure if there's any more questions. I can start working on this a little more. So.
Yeah, you can, if you're good with it, you can kind of keep working on it as we go. So what about I'm sure you heard me ask Alex about working in the Z pattern and pulling the reader's eyes along.
Yeah.
Where does that happen for you when you're designing the page? Is that also in your gestures? I mean, in your thumbnails?
That's in my thumbnails, and I always try to, the general idea of where the dialogue is going to go, and then on the page, I will kind of also make room for it. The generally, upright zigzag leading that eye, and then of course when you get to the final panel, usually the idea is either if you have a character in the final panel, either he's looking to the right or something's moving to the right that basically look at the corner of the page they want you to turn.
Right.
So generally trying to make everything kind of moving towards from the top left and the zigzag down to the bottom right corner. And that's that corner that you kind of want almost the art to kind of be pointing to get you to flip that page.
Yeah.
So
and I mean that's exactly the kind of thing I teach my students when they're writing is that on every odd numbered page you got to have something on that last panel that encourages your reader to turn the page, and that can be a combination of art, dialogue, something somehow between the two that causes readers to say, I got to turn the page and see what's next.
Yeah. If you read a comic and you're flipping ahead a few pages, see what happens, you have a good comic then.
Yeah. And because even when working Marvel style, which is a style that I'm quite fond of, I'll even tell someone, it's like, hey, look, and Alex has drawn for my plots, and a lot of times what I'll say is that, hey, here's what happens. This happens. This happens. This happens. This happens. The last image is this, right? Because, I haven't, as a writer, I have in my mind the thing that I want the Alex to I want Alex to be able to read my mind, essentially, and to say, hey, here's what we need to be on that last panel that makes the reader turn the page.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically like the end of a good book, a TV episode, next chapter that has sort of cliffhanger.
Right.
But you wanted the cliffhangers at the end of the odd pages. Yeah.
Yep,
Definitely.
absolutely. Because unless someone is just messed up, which has happened before, odd number of pages are always going to be on the right-hand side. And so you're always going to, you're always going to be consuming your comic, even odd, even odd, even odd.
Right. I could even show an example of that in this book here that I did. And I'll just explain this. This is really, there's this like robot who's looking for this character, and she comes running out of the bushes, and the last panel is her cocked back, ready to punch.
Yeah.
That's the last panel. That's that tension. And of course, when you turn the page, then you get the action. But that's that last panel. You want to keep that tension, like, okay, it's almost like mid-action.
Yeah.
Or that final action you want to leave it on.
Because you want to see, does she connect? Does something happen? Does she explode? I mean, yeah, we see her just prior to something exciting. And a writer can also, that can be a line of dialogue that, someone speaks from off panel, and everybody's turning to look, oh no, what is it? Who is it? I think
you got to flip the panel.
Yeah, you got to turn. I think that's I'm working on Cat and Mouse number 4 that Alex is going to be drawing really soon.
Mm-hmm.
I had that on one of the first couple of pages, is that someone speaks from off panel and she turns around and look, and that hopefully will get the reader to turn the page.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so let's shift on around to C. Michael. C. Michael, how about you? What do you do from your thumbnails? How do you go from your thumbnail to get? Now you're working digital, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I usually do my roughs. What I've been doing is doing my roughs in digital, and then from there move it to Bristol board from Lightbox and everything. And flesh it out from there. But what I start with, see right here, I have my layout.
Bigger, Tim, you want to? Yeah, there you go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have my layout here. Yeah, I have my layout. You can see that I kind of have a sample in the Bristol board on the screen,
right?
That has the markings and everything. So I'll take that, and what I'll do is you got to rasterize it so I can be able to alter that. I'll set my multiply so I can see through it. Then I'll bring it out, stretch it out. Let's see if I can get this to work right.
Now, just as a reminder, while he's doing this, what you saw when Alex was talking earlier, for those of you who are paying attention, Alex was actually working on a page of Cat and Mouse from issue number 3. And C. Michael is actually working on a page from Something Big. So these are going to be things that you're going to see popping up from Silverline here in just a matter of months. So right now you're just trying to size it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to. This will help me see where I want to place my panels on the page.
Gotcha.
Because when I do my layout, I do the rule of 3s. So it's kind of, I don't do, my thumbnails are almost an 8x11 page. Kind of helps me, like when I do my layout, that way I have I guess I'm kind of blind in that sense. Let's see. Usually I don't have this big of a problem, but because we're live, it wants to give me a problem.
Yeah, we're live, and so it's gonna be cantankerous a little bit.
There's always that one page in every project that wants to kill you.
Yeah. No, this takes me 5 seconds normally. I don't know why it's giving me problems tonight.
So here's a question. As you're doing this, maybe I will distract it a little bit. So because you do work from an 8.5x11, which is just a piece of typing paper of size, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
How does that? Because a comic page is not the same dimensions. 8.5x11 is a little squatter, where a comic page is a little taller. How do you handle the dimensions with that, going from something that's
usually when I stretch it out, like instead of keeping the ratio of the original image, then I'll stretch it out. I don't really have, it doesn't really have any problem there, but you see on the side also, I have these little blue marks for those thirds. That kind of helps me out to see where I'm going and what I want to line up to what. And let's see. Come on.
Now, do you ever find that when you get something kind of close, that you will stretch it out a little bit and get it into I don't know where it's longer than it is taller, distort it some? Do you ever accidentally distort, or maybe not accidentally? Do you ever intentionally distort something?
Sometimes like the images that you see there are just guidelines.
Okay.
I really come back and draw on that when I do my roughs. Now, what button in the moves? Oh,
so you've got this down there as a layer, then, huh? Essentially. Yeah. Okay.
It does not want to work with me tonight. I mean, let me see here if I can. Maybe if it'll let me pull up something. I don't know what the deal is. I knew this was going to happen.
You put it on the spot.
I'm not sure why it's giving me problems tonight.
Well,
but usually I put this on there, the layout, and I'll draw my panels.
Well,
see if I can pull up one.
This is also pretty important for people who are just trying to get into comics, thinking that the art form is all kind of you write and draw whatever you want, and you kind of take your own time. And the reality of it is you have a 3-day deadline, and for whatever reason, one page is trying to murder you, and you're at the verge of throwing the computer out the window.
Every time. Look, I just completed 2 pages on pencils, and I can't even get my scanner to scan them right. So I have to come back over, but that's what you saw me doing with the other pages, putting it on the computer and trying to bring it out.
So here's what we'll do: we'll turn the camera off of you. We'll shift back around to Alex, and we'll let you fight with that page, and we'll come back around and we'll get back to you there. So we'll go back to Alex. So Alex, what are the things you talked about going from your thumbnails into your kind of a gesture there? And I'm seeing the spinning on Twitch now. Okay, it seems to be working. So you do your gestures of your characters. Now, we can't see your page well enough yet, but it looks like there are no real backgrounds there.
On this panel, I'm going to focus on no. So something I learned at school is generally for every single page, within the first 3 panels of the page, you want to establish where your characters are.
Yep.
And it just so happens that the first panel of the page is a big establishing shot.
Right.
And you got another established shot, another. So you know where they are, and so you don't always have to worry about every background has to be drawn in.
Yeah.
I know that's something a lot of new pencilers. That's one of their problems, is that all the backgrounds just are just crazy because they're all filled with detail.
Right.
And it makes it actually hard for the reader to understand what's going on.
Yes.
So on a simple talking head panel, it's usually just best to either do something simple in the background, just like an outline of what's back there.
Okay.
Or just to do either a gradient or do nothing. Because really what you want to focus on is the characters, and more, I guess, especially, or more importantly, in this case, Brett or Cat.
Right. And your writer's probably going to come put a big bubble on top of it anyway.
Yeah, I'll probably be like right here, and maybe something down here, and maybe something over here. That's also something you got to work with, and you have to understand, and you have to create room for.
Yeah.
So I'm always making sure, not in this panel in particularly, but I guess in this panel, if my writer, whoever he is, wanted to add some balloons here, he has the space.
Right.
And that's always something you have to work with whenever you're storytelling, because you want to make sure you're giving the other creators enough room to tell the story that they want to tell.
Right.
And so that's always something you got to think of. And that's also another common mistake with young pencilers, is that they just don't leave enough room.
Yeah.
And it kind of backfires on them, because then their art gets covered up. So it's something you got to be thinking about. And honestly, whenever you're doing your thumbnails or your roughs, you should probably be putting in some type of balloons as kind of like a thought process for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great idea to let you kind of visualize it. Yeah, I mean, I'd hate to think of a really young artist working with a writer like Chris Claremont. You know,
like a
I
young
don't.
Jim Lee or something.
Yeah, I don't know how many Chris Claremont comics you've seen, but you know, he's not afraid of his words, and he'll put them on the page, and he'll often cover up a lot of art. I've seen some X-Men. I've peeked at some X-Men books recently that Claremont wrote, and like, man, that's a lot of words. And I don't mind words, but it's like, man, that's a lot of words on that page, and he's covered up a lot of really a beautiful art. So I guess one of my questions kind of is, do you when you're doing this page, do you focus primarily on the figure work before you work? You consider the backgrounds, maybe with the exception of you talked about the first panel. There's an establishing shot. Do you generally consider the images? Not the images. The character bodies
The
first.
figures.
Figures. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
It obviously depends. Let me get a different page just as an example, real quick.
Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle.
So this is the benefit to traditionals. You just got all the pages right here. You don't got to go into files.
Yeah.
Just trying to sift through. Okay, so on this page, it's mainly a splash page, just some panels around it and everything. So on this page, I primarily, and it depends on page to page, but on this one I mainly focused on the figure first. Obviously, you lay in the environment just to make sure it works.
Right.
But I penciled the figure first, and then I went ahead and added all the background details after as a secondary. Let me pull another example out.
So basically, you wanted to make sure the figure was on the page where you wanted it, and then you kind of positioned him, or maybe positioned the background around the figure to make it work. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. With that particular instance.
Yeah.
Here's another example of the opposite. So on this establishing shot, we see Brett kind of knocking on this karate club door to early in the morning. And, before I drew in Cat, I just drew in the whole background, the establishing shot in full detail. And then I lightly erased the area around Brett and then drew him in, because in this panel, it's more important that you get the full sense of the environment and then him. It kind of, first you see that and then you focus on him.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It depends. But usually whenever I'm laying stuff out, I lay out everything. So it's really whenever I'm like doing the tightened pencils that I focus on an element.
Gotcha. So it's kind of whatever's the important thing in the panel is kind of where your focus is then, right?
Correct. Yeah.
If it's important to establish, you work in the environment first and then place the figure appropriately in the environment. Is that right?
Yeah. So let's just make up an example real quick, or say there's like a diner or a restaurant and you have characters that are going to be eating at this restaurant, and there's a bunch of people in the restaurant, and there's waiters and hostess, and there's a background, maybe you have a patio. So there's all these elements that you have to make sure fit within the characters' kind of sizes and everything. So in that instance, you'd want to make sure you kind of frame everything and put everything in perspective to how the characters would fit in the seats and how they would look like next to a table standing up, and how a waiter would look next to a table with a bunch of guests. It's like
Yeah.
it always depends, and you're always using different, I guess, mind tools to make sure you figure everything out. But it's just another reason why penciling could be one of the hardest jobs in comics, just because that's something you got to figure out, and if you don't, could make or break that panel, that page, or that whole book for someone if a waiter is like 3 feet tall or something.
Yeah. And then
unless it's a small person's
and then,
cafe.
it's a Hobbit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I easily say this pretty much all the time, is that the pencilers are really the workhorses of the it is a collaborative medium, and it is a collaborative effort, and everyone plays a part, and a weak link will show if you've got a weak writer or a weak inker or a weak link will show. But absolutely, certainly, the penciler is the workhorse. It's and even kind of for what we're doing, the pencilers are pace horses, right? They're the pace dogs, because we kind of set our schedules based on what you're able to do. Thus far, I know for Something Big, and I know for Cat and Mouse as well, the inkers have been able to pretty much keep up with you guys. So you are, as a penciler, you are very much the pace horse as well as the workhorse. I should know this, coming from a farming family. You have 2 horses. One of them is the kind of the guide, the big daddy, the one that kind of is the I don't even know. I'm gonna have to look this up. But anyway, so one of them kind of shoulders the burden. Their yoke is a little heavier, right? But the other one still works. It's just one of them is kind
talking
of
about the herder or something.
Kind of what?
The herder?
Not a herder. I'll look it up. We'll figure this out next time. But,
I want to say it might just be lead horse.
It could be lead horse, but that tends to, that may be it for like a team of horses when you have,
a Budweiser commercial.
A Budweiser commercial, yeah. Yeah, but I'm thinking when you have 2 horses, one of them has, you put your more disciplined horse at that spot. I'll look it up and figure it out. Okay, so we'll shift on over to Aaron. What about you, Aaron? What do you focus on now? We saw you start blocking in that the big character there on what I call a Jim Lee page, right? You've got a great big panel in which you've got the character there full figure, which is an excellent way to establish a character when they first enter into the scene, right? To get a great, it's kind of a I don't know that, I'm sure Jim Lee didn't create the panel layout, but man, he sure perfected it when he was doing the X-Men.
He was great at
you turn that page, and that first panel was a tall panel from top to bottom, and the character entering the scene was almost always shown, sometimes multiple characters, from head to toe. To establish, Marvel has a rule, and as of about 2 years ago, it's still a rule, that whenever a character enters the scene, and it's a great rule, and I wish more independent creators would do this, because it's a rule for a reason. But the rule is whenever a character enters the scene, they need to be seen visually from head to toe. So when a character enters, and writers are terrible about this too. If a writer introduces a character and all you see is like half their face, the reader has no clue who that is. Like, well, who is this? I don't know who that is. So
they need to identify exactly.
Yeah, and so this is a rule at Marvel that when you know, again, I don't read Marvel books, I haven't read for years, but I still have friends who work there, and I checked with an editor recently, and he says yes, that's still very much one of their rules, is that every comic should be written as if it's a reader's first comic, and B, whenever a character enters a scene, they should be seen from head to toe, regardless of the size of the panel. So if you're drawing a small panel, the character head to toe is going to be smaller. But this just establishes the look of the character for the reader. So then in the next panel, you can just show their arm, but the reader is going to go, oh, that arm belongs to that dude right there, right?
Exactly. You're establishing the entire what they look like or whatever. The other thing I really pay attention, and maybe I pay attention to this more than other pencilers, but I really pay attention to not only background, but where things are in a background. So like the idea of three-dimensional space. So like in this panel, this is the page before it, there is a character who's standing in front of this bookcase. So every time I draw her at different angles, I try to reference that bookcase because I want to make sure people realize she's still standing in the same place.
Right.
She's still there.
Right.
So I do have like almost like three-dimensional representations of rooms and stuff. Strangely enough, this actually, I'm one of these, in my comic, I'm trying to practice on acting a little bit. And so this is actually an 8-page conversation, which is rare in comics. But I'm like, if you can make,
unless
and it's
you
kind of
a Brian Michael Bendis book.
Yeah, and then if you Brian Bendis book. But the idea is like, because you have like so many talking heads, so I'm trying to figure out ways to like really put in the idea of like body language, motion, acting, different variations to really let the kind of like bring the reader along in the conversation, not just people talking, but people talking with different, you know, expressions, the way they would look. And this scene in the book is two friends meeting after they thought each other was dead, and they realize, you know, oh, we're alive. And so this is a kind of a big conversation. Gotcha. But so it's kind of, because I'm always one of these people, like, I love action in comics, but unless you really establish your characters in some emotional capacity to get readers to care, the action means nothing. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, there has to be a healthy mix.
And it does. And so it's always been a challenge to me, like, could I make a conversation as exciting as an action scene? And I think I'm doing okay. I mean, again, I think it's good practice. If you can make the mundane exciting, then the action scene should be no problem.
Yeah. Well, one of the tricks is, and I'm sure you figured this out. One of the tricks is certainly that your character, even though it's not an action scene, your characters cannot remain static. The characters, they need to move. You don't want to just have two characters sitting on a couch talking, because that's literally really boring. It's just in a comic book, right? So you want to move and set the table, cooking, you know, getting in the refrigerator, opening a bottle of Coke. You know, you want them doing things while they have their conversation. And it's not an action scene, but they are active.
Exactly. For like this scene here, for this main character, she's describing a character who they previously in the book is no longer in the book, actually do kill off some of my characters, and he wore this helmet that he would never take off. And so she's kind of joking around that he would just never take off his helmet. So she's kind of putting her hands up and they're sort of like almost grabbing a helmet in front of her face. And then later on in the panel, she's like, do you think the helmet was stuck? And so I have her actually squeezing her head with the hand. Like, that's not acting. Instead of just saying it, she's actually squeezing her head with the hands, mimicking the idea that this helmet's stuck. And that's that sort of acting I'm looking at. That sort of like, you know, no, give them something visual that she's, you know, talking with her hands.
So what about we talk about the figure work and the background work in general? What do you approach first on a page?
Most of the time I want to make sure that I block in the figure with the background. So I'm probably going to tackle the figure, but I really want to make sure the figure is in proportion to the background, where the background sits with the figure. So I could just use the other one because I did backgrounds. So it would all kind of be focused as one. So it would be all blocked in a very geometric shapes to make sure that I'm measuring everything. Like, okay, that's about right. She's about that height. I mean, of course, you can't be perfect,
right?
You know, but in general sense, because people usually look at comic panels within seconds and get information and move on,
right?
And so, I mean, that's why it's so still, when I get people, like, hey, I worked on this for 2 months. Somebody reads it in 5 minutes. That's cool. And you're like,
yeah, I looked at that panel for 5 seconds.
I know. It's like, whatever. But at least, I mean, apparently I should feel proud that it works, that they're able to look at it and work like that. But yeah.
So I will say this, and the writers are about to kind of love me. If there are lots of words on the panel, they're gonna hang out in that panel a little bit longer.
Oh yeah. They're just gonna hang out and
just kidding. That's
why the verb is to read a comic book.
What's that?
That's why the verb is you read a comic book.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's a silent book.
Yeah, and then then it's not a book; it's a picture book.
Yeah.
Right.
G.I. Joe.
Where's the comic adaptation of The Pianist?
Yeah.
I have a question on Twitch.
Okay.
From Royal Airships, whose Twitch name is Standby for Heavy Rolls. This is
cool.
Run this by Roland, and then if the other pencilists want to chime in with their opinion on it, go ahead. He says, this is referring back to the Marvel rule of introductions. What if in the same character story arc, we go from one scene to another, say from planning a heist in a secret room to breaking into a museum, full body shot for each scene transition?
So I think some of it, so my answer would be this. It depends on the distance between scenes, okay? So if you literally go from one scene in which you've established the character and the very next scene is just a different location, your concern then is establishing location, okay? So if your character is planning the heist, you've established that character. The character is going to tell the reader somehow, some way, oh, we're about to go to the bank. And then you establish the bank. Well, you already know that this character is headed to the bank. So you don't have to show, I don't think, you don't have to show that character head to toe in the bank because the reader has gone with you. You've established what they look like, and they've gone with you from that one scene into the next scene. You do need to establish the bank so that the reader knows visually that that's where they're at. But I don't think you need to reestablish in a full body shot, a full figure of the character.
No.
What do you guys think? Are you on board with that, or?
Yeah.
As long as go ahead.
Usually, once you establish a shot, if you establish that whole character in another scene, and say she's walking down the street going to the bank, right, and you establish her walking in this full shot, you don't need to do it when she's in the bank. And it should also be to what the actual scene is storytelling. Like, say she's walking in the bank and she's gonna maybe deposit something or whatever, like a big check or whatever. Then you might actually draw like a mid waist up shot with her holding her purse or getting into her purse, because you want to direct the eye towards the action, like she's getting the check out. So you could also, I think, once you establish character, scene, then the drawings go into more to establish the actual actions that are going to compel the story forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I will say that as an editor, just part of the job is looking for points of confusion. If there's going to be a drastic costume change, you could look to sell that in some way, but you don't need to do the full like Jim Lee like one shot. You could even just say when you're establishing the bank, do a wide shot of your crew in Hamburglar suits if they needed to get into Hamburglar suits for whatever reason.
And it helps if your characters say, we got to change first. And I one of the things I've noticed is a lot of my students are really resistant to that kind of thing, is that you forget it's a combination of story and art. And so if your characters are going to change costumes and you're going to see them one way in one panel and then the next way the next panel, then why not them say, hey Johnny, don't forget we got to get in costume before we hit the bank. Then when we see them, they've changed clothes, right? You have to be, it's a fine line between writing words that are on the nose about what's happening and telling the reader the story. This is not about the writing, but you want to make sure you let the characters tell the story and not the writer telling the story.
Yeah, you want to make sure it's the smoothest ride for the reader.
Yes. I like that. Smoothest ride for the reader. Yeah. I always say, and this goes for story and art and anything, confusion on the part of the reader is the cardinal sin of the creator. If a reader is confused, then it's not because the reader is an idiot. It's because the writer didn't do something correctly, or the artist didn't, correctly communicate visually something. It is the fault of the creator and not the reader if the reader
Right.
is confused.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got a.
And it's hard.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So I got a huge question on Facebook. So if you had a thought there, Aaron, to finish, I'll let you do that while I get this prepped.
Yeah, the other thing too with the writers, like sometimes writer and artist is that you also don't want to break the character. Like you don't want a character going into the bank and being like, "Oh, I got to go into the bank." Like just going to like, "I must deposit a check in here." So you want to there's some things you have to show visually because it's going to sound really weird if your character almost like breaks the fourth wall and like, by the way, reader, remember what I'm doing here. So that's that sort of like combination of the art working with the writing to sort of make those scenes play.
Right. Yeah. You have to be very careful in the way you do it.
All right.
Let's see. Go ahead. You got another question?
Yes, I have one from David Mullins on Facebook. Do you have any advice to deal with an artist that is drawn? This is more about the business side of being a penciler and writer in the relationship there. Do you have any advice to deal with an artist that has drawn half your book and starts grabbing work from others and neglects your book? Do you just scrap the whole project or try and just wait and make it work? The problem is it's a half-drawn book that you can't sell and a ton of wasted money. I know this is a bit off topic, but I just jumped in here. So I can
Roland know exactly.
Yeah, I can also speak from personal experience with that, as well as half the guys here. I wrote a book not too long ago called Kabbalist, and we got about halfway done with it when life just got in the way for the penciler, and I couldn't quite give him the hand-holding that he might have needed with it being about the ancient Hebrew tradition of Kabbalism, which is not, daily meat level content. And that became a trash can book. Like, we decided we'll get back to it if we get back to it, but until then I'll chuck it until I can find someone else who would be interested in it. And honestly, I haven't really thought about it since, and I've been happy working on other stuff.
Yeah. What about you, pencilers? Any stories? Any suggestions, thoughts from the penciler perspective?
I know that I've had many of this discussion with another friend of mine who works on his own comics, and talking about how I've pencilers and artists have talked about making comics is really hard, and I think drawing and making comics is hard, but I think the number one thing artists tackle with is endurance. It's very time consuming. That's the number one. If you are willing to put in the time, you can do anything you want. But that's what happens to so many pencilers, is that once I see lots of people like, I do the first page, and people are like,
yeah
let's keep going. So it's hard. They feel like they succeeded, but it's one of those, and what you may be dealing with is just one of many artists who want to do this. This could have been their first shot or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, they do the endurance to finish the book. Because a lot of people do like 10 pages and, I don't like this idea. I don't like the story. Oh, this sounds cool. And they jump all over. There's artists who are notorious for that.
Yeah.
And sometimes to keep an artist focused on like, no, you must finish this story first. It's almost like kicking and screaming. So I've talked through that, and I said that's the number one thing I see that kill most people want to get in the industry is once you put them to work and they look at the amount of work it's going to take to do this, they either run or they stay, and that's the difference, I think, and that could be what you're dealing with.
Yeah. Alex, see Michael, any thoughts?
I guess it just really depends on, he's talking about life getting in the way. It just depends on what that situation is. We live in a world where there's you have the internet at your fingertips, and you can always find replacements on Facebook or other sites, Instagram, any social media. And so we're kind of at that point where if someone needs to take some time off or just doesn't want to be on the book, that's fine. just make sure there isn't any, bad blood in between those two creators, and
right,
we can move on. There's other possibilities now. It's not like the book has to just end at that point and never begin again. But it's always about understanding people's situations first, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Unless he wants the art to reflect the old artwork. If you want the art book to continue in the same style artwork, that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah,
that might be more problems.
Tim,
but he's Alex.
I'm getting messages on Facebook on this Facebook Messenger that they can't hear you.
Oh, that's weird because I'm nearly peaking my mic.
Oh, okay.
But also another thing is I've dealt with writers. They'll well, let's do a project together. Okay, I don't have much experience, so I'll go ahead and do this. And I've had several of them. I've had one guy that I agreed to within the next couple hours. You got those character designs yet? and it's they don't even want to give you a script. They want these character designs. And I've gotten them to where they'll give me sheets of paper of stuff that happens on the page, but not the script or what's going on. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I had one guy. He gave me all this stuff, and it was a great idea and everything. And I was working on it, and I was doing the character sheets and everything. I said, okay, I'm ready to move on. Let's have a script. Okay. I haven't heard from him since.
Oh God, yeah.
Well, make no bones about it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You're a little crackly to me.
It might just be the headphones, but when you're dealing with somebody that's constantly on you, you don't really feel like you don't have inspiration to continue on. You go, leave me alone.
Yeah.
So you don't really have that creative development that you're looking for. And
yeah, you're absolutely right. And make no bones about it. It's very difficult, regardless of what task you're doing in comics, whether you're starting off as a writer or whether you're starting off as a penciler, because or inker colors, right? Because part of it is you're unproven. And if you're a writer, I mean, I hopefully Tim can remember this. I really beat it into my students' heads from the writer perspective is, look, you have got to endear yourself as a writer to your artist. Okay. If your artist is and one of the things I tell them is this, that's right. Because I said, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is find an artist whose work you like and say, oh, I really love your work. Will you draw my story? Because a lot of them are going to say, well, maybe, let's talk. And then if you don't find out about the artist, they're going to get, as has been said here, they're going to get 3, 6, 10 pages into the story and say, you know what? I don't want to draw your battle mechs. I really want to draw My Little Pony. And so they're going to be bored with it. So you have to take some time to get to know your artist. And of course, there are tricks, right? When you work at it long enough, there are things that you can do. Like, for instance, one of the suggestions I always tell them, and I give them some websites to go see. Pencil Jack, you guys may be familiar with Pencil Jack. Pencil Jack is one of the sites that I point them to. I said, look, here's the deal. If we go look at an artist and there are 6 Batman pages, I know immediately something about that artist. You guys know the answer, right?
Right. You can tell a story.
Well, no,
sequential pages.
Let's just they're sequential pages. Well, let's just assume they're not that good, right? Let's just assume they're not that good. But what do I know just from looking because they're Batman pages?
They want to do superheroes.
They want to do superheroes. They want to do Batman. Batman is probably their favorite character, and they want to go draw Batman. And if they can't draw Batman, they'll probably be satisfied with any other Marvel, DC superhero. So you have to be smart as a writer to equip yourself to know, okay, this artist is drawing Batman. They would like to work for Marvel or DC and draw superheroes. Or if you see them drawing anime, oh, well, they want to draw really, anime love story things, right? Or they want to draw. You have to find out what your artist wants to draw before you can approach them. And again, a lot of times their samples can clue you in as to what they have interest in. I saw, that's kind of the way I found Alex, is I saw some of the stuff that he was posting, and it just happened to be in one of those really weird positions where I needed someone for Cat and Mouse, and I'm like, Cat and Mouse it's not Batman, right? And it certainly it is not, but it is Batman-y.
Wait, hold on. This isn't Batman?
Oh shoot! I didn't realize you were there. I keep telling. No, Batman will be in the next issue. Batman will be in the next issue.
Dang it.
Catman.
Yeah. So I don't know that we've answered the question. You said that was for David Mullins.
Yes.
I think David Mullins is he's who I think he is. I think he's a Full Sail grad or a student.
Well, hopefully, from my personal experience, it kind of alluded to how I dealt with that issue.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is, I think that I don't think that there's an easy answer to say you give up, you throw in the towel. I think as Alex talked about, you kind of find out what's going on with them.
Yeah.
If they're taking other work, there may be something there. You just may have to ask them, hey, look, you've done half of this book. Are you going to finish it? Are you bored? Or what's up? Just kind of have a heart-to-heart with them. I think from my experience, most people would rather have you shoot straight with them and be forthcoming and say, what's up? Give me an answer. Here's why I need to know this. I think most people would rather that than you beat around the bush, even if the truth is ugly. I think most people would rather know that. The decision though has to be yours as to whether you have to move on. I will tell you this. I have a project that hopefully I'm going to be talking with the artist and maybe get her to join us here soon. This is a project of mine that has had about 6 artists attached to it. The first artist did about 12, 13 pages, penciled and he inked himself, penciled and inked. We lettered them and made ash cans and promoted it around a little bit, and then he bailed. Life got in the way for him. Right, so it set for a long time. Got someone else to come on, and they said they were interested. They did some character sketches, then they disappeared. Got somebody else to come on, and he spent like 6 months doing designs of sets and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, draw the book, right? And he ended up doing about 6 pages, I think. We actually had those. We got those inked. I think he might have inked them himself. I'd have to go back and look. But we got 4 or 5 of the pages colored, and they looked really good. And then he just said, I can't do it. Got to go. Got to do something else.
Got to go to China?
Got to go. No, yeah. That's not that guy, but yeah.
I know.
Yeah. But he... so he ended up bailing, and then talked to another couple of people that got some characters, sketches and designs and that kind of thing. And so the artist that I'm working with now, she has done some character designs, and she has done thumbnails, I think for most of the first issue. So hopefully she's going to dive into the book and do it. It seems like it's something that's kind of and that's the other thing, is that I can't just go, you can't just go jump and get any artist to do it. If this goes back to the idea that you want to find out what the artists really want to draw. But I think this project was kind of in her wheelhouse, and I talked to her about it and said, is this the kind of thing you like? And I met her at a show, and so we had a conversation over the course of several months, and before she agreed to that. So so I don't know. It's a tough place to be in, David. And I think that I think your first option needs to be reach out to that artist and try to have a heart-to-heart with them and find out exactly where they are and exactly what they want to do. And then, equipped with that information, you can then make a decision and go forward.
And this is also why contracts do exist.
That's right.
Yes.
That's why contracts exist. But I'll tell you another thing that I try to do, and this is just me personally, and I know for a lot of people that I've talked to, they're like, yeah, I don't really care. But this is an important thing to me, and this is just me personally. Part of the reason that the kind of the revamped Silverline started with some of the people it did, Barb, and Dean and Kevin, Sid, some of these people is that I knew that they love comics. And yes, they're they were doing comics in the 90s, so they're not new to the comic book industry. But I knew that they loved comics and they wanted to make comics. I think there are some artists out there who post to DeviantArt and all these other sites. They just want to draw pinups and they just want to draw, design characters and things like. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to be, I think, careful. This goes back to talking to your artist, finding out what they want to do. I want to work with people who love comics and want to make comics. That's something that when I reached out to Alex, he and I talked about it a little bit, and I even said,
I said I hate it.
Yeah, no, you're like, no, this is what I want to do. And I even said, Alex, we talked a little bit. We talked about family, and told him a little bit about about me. And it was like, look, I want to talk it over with my family. And I'm like, dude, that is like, yes, please talk it over with your family, because you want to make sure that you've got some kind of balance there, that you're not just rushing in to say, oh, this is what I want to do, and this is it. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm making smart decisions, right? So yeah, I don't know that that's an easy answer, David. I'm not really sure we answered you, but hopefully you're equipped with a little bit and can move forward.
We do have a follow-up. David confirms that he is a Full Sail grad.
I thought I recognized the name. I think I talked to him some, yeah.
And the follow-up is, with the half-drawn book, can I switch artist and still attempt to get published with the new artist? I believe he said he already paid the artist for the pages that were done.
Yeah.
So I believe, I'll let you get into legalities there with Roland, but I believe then it comes down to a matter of permission, which is a whole weird thing.
Permission about what, Tim?
To use an artist's artwork, even though his name is not necessarily the main name. He'd still have to be credited, of course.
Yeah, if now again, I don't know his agreement, but if he has paid for the artist for that artwork, he can use it moving forward. Here's a problem he's going to run into. A lot of it, Alex is tightening up that thumb. A lot of it is what does he want to do with that first issue? If he intends to send it to, for instance, if he intends to send it to Image, they won't take it with two different artists. They just won't. Image wants to. You can't do, and they
want to sell creative teams.
Yeah, they want to sell a creative team. So they don't even want you to pull a bait and switch. You can't send them a first issue done by a creative team, and then the second issue is done by a completely different. They will yank you in a heartbeat. If you're going to do it yourself, if you're going to go to a smaller publisher than Image, you might, depending on where they are kind of in the scale of publishers, some of them will still have that problem. Some of them will say, no, we want one artist to be consistent. But if you're doing it yourself, or if you get down the scale a little bit, there's going to be some publishers like, yeah, we don't care as long as the artwork is still good and consistent, and it's finished, right? That's going to be the key for a lot of them, is it finished. Some of them won't care. But yeah, if this is a book that you're planning to send to Image, then you're going to have to either get the first guy to finish it and commit to the rest of the series, or you're going to need to find a new guy. And
if it's your own book, go ahead and print it. Kablam!
You're absolutely right. If it's your own book, get someone else to finish it and print it at Kablam. You can do that for incredibly reasonable prices at Kablam. And the beauty is, once you get it finished, you can literally print one copy if you just want one. You could print up 10 copies for your pals. You can print up 20 copies to send to a bunch of different publishers. Heck, that's a if I were trying to break into the comic book industry today, that probably if I were trying to sell my work to the bigger publishers, that's probably what I would do. Is I would probably finish my book, take it to Kablam, print me some really nice looking books, and then submit that out to publishers and say, here's my book. Do you want to cut a deal with me? Actually, I might not do that. I'm that kind. I probably in today's technology, I would probably just say, why do I want to do that? I'll just publish this myself. Yeah, so I think you're going to have to, David. It just depends on what you want to do with it. You can absolutely get a different artist to finish the story, but not if you plan to take it to Image.
If that first artist already decided not to be on the project, there's not going to be hurt feelings that someone else went ahead and finished the project. So.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah, because it's not like you fired them, right? It's that something happened, life happened, and they had to move on, and couldn't finish it. So the second person coming on is actually a help. So yeah, it shouldn't have any hurt feelings at all, I wouldn't think.
Unless you fired them and just ruined their whole career.
Yeah. Those are good questions. We had to deal with that's actually I'm gonna make a note here. We had to do something like the business of comics sometimes. I'm taking notes, by the way. So see, Michael, let's get back to you. It looks like you got your page in good shape.
Yeah, finally, right? Yeah, you see, I kind of put the panels in. Let's see if I could take this off real quick. What am I working on? Kind of give you the bare bones. So I took it's kind of my basic structure, and then filled in my panels, and they're just ready to work. So I just kind of go in and make a mess of it.
Okay. So show those thumbs again, if you don't mind. Show those thumbnails again with the panels there. Okay. So you lay the thumbnails in like that, and then you go back in and do the panel outlines, panel borders, to figure out how you're going to lay those in, right?
Right.
Okay.
That way I actually have good visual where everything is and the energy of the page and everything. So
okay. So what was I saw some red there. Was that like the next layer that you were working on?
Right. Just kind of roughing in some what I'm moving on to for my roughs.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Cool. So basically this is the next step up then from your thumbs.
Right.
Okay. And so I'm going to ask you the same question I asked both Alex and Aaron. Is that and it looks I'm guessing just because of what I'm seeing here. Do you start with the figures or the backgrounds environment work in general?
Usually I go ahead and I try to grid out the backgrounds. One rule that I follow that helps me kind of put everybody in perspective is that horizon line, where everybody meets some horizon line. So, if everybody's eye level the same height, they're going to meet on that horizon line. So as long as I can establish a horizon line, I can pretty much fit the characters in the panel without the backgrounds, but I like to put the backgrounds in and then start working around that way.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
Like, for instance, this panel up here, the second panel right here, I'll probably grid that in just to kind of have an idea of space, of the 3D space. And I know some people, when they get more experience, and they just kind of see that. I'm still kind of working on that visual 3D viewpoint,
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I guess you have all, and Alex, you probably heard these at the Kubert School. You've all heard stories of how Jack Kirby did his pages, right?
If I did, I don't remember.
You don't remember? Yeah. So Marv Wolfman and Lynn Wein, when they were younger, used to, when I say younger, they were like teens, right? They would go to Jack Kirby's house. This is when they were still in New York. They would go to Jack Kirby's house and literally just sit in his floor and watch him draw and ask him all kinds of questions, right?
Through the smoke, yeah.
Yeah, through the cigar smoke and everything. Of course, Jack Kirby was a very, a very generous guy with his time and all that kind of thing. And they said that, and I think I heard Marv tell the story, But that basically, and of course I'm not an artist, right? But basically that Jack would take his pad and he would literally just kind of several minutes just kind of take his pencil and just not even touch the page, but just kind of do this and all over the page. And right, they said he would do that for a couple of minutes. It's like he was drawing the page in his mind, and then he would just start drawing, and he wouldn't, he would just draw the page, but he took several minutes with his pencil, not touching the page, with just gesturing, all over the entire page before he actually put pencil to paper. So yeah, the whole idea of this, of course, is, and I tell the Kirby story just to for any of you who are watching out there, that that your final product is what matters. However you start it, whether you start with thumbnails, and I noticed here's something interesting. I noticed no one used a light box tonight.
Oh, I got one.
Do you have one? So do you use it much, or is it something you don't use much at all, or?
It actually has something that I was using for it a couple days ago. So, yes.
Yeah. So, I was a little surprised that, not to see those, because I know of artists that I worked with in the past that would do a lot of their gestures like that, and then they would take the light box and kind of blow it up so that the gestures, the thumbnails, were projected kind of onto the page underneath it through the light box, and then they would draw out the first gestures, I guess, onto the bristle board from that. And I've always found that as a pretty interesting process. So,
yeah, my digital thumbnails kind of take place of instead of that, instead of the whole light box.
Yeah, kind of does the same thing. So we might have to. Would you guys be willing to sometime down the road? Would you guys be willing to, maybe if we just make up a page, each of you tackle thumbnails for something, and then kind of describe your process?
Give us a script.
Yeah. Okay. I think that might be fun, just to kind of see, and we wouldn't have to go any further than thumbnails, but just kind of see your thought process. If we have one page of a script that has several panels on it, just to see your thought processes, the different thought processes of how you put the page together.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, my clock reached 10:52. So like most of the other Silverline lives, this is kind of blown through there. You guys have anything to say? Anything that you're like, man, Roland, why didn't you ask? Get it? Man, Roland, why didn't you ask about this particular thing? Tim just got it. He's like, no, really, Roland, come on. Anything I didn't ask you about, when you first start a page? Or was I pretty thorough?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, I'm trying to. No.
All right.
It's real exciting.
Well, it is work. I like to think that what we produce is a fun thing. But when you boil it down to it, it's still work. You still have to put your butt in the chair and get the work done. And I'd say the same thing to writers and inkers and colorists and letterers. It's still work. But again, I like to think we're making our end product is fun stuff. And that's important to me.
We get to tell stories through pictures. It's the best.
That's right. Yeah. And the thing I mentioned this in class a whole bunch, but the thing that I love about comics and the stories that we're telling is that we have an unlimited special effects budget. If I'm Alex and I are working on a story, and I have my, hey, Alex, let's blow up a car, and Alex is going to say, Roland, why just one car? Let's blow up an entire parking deck. And I'm like, dude, even better, right? It doesn't cost us a dime more, right? We've got an unlimited special effects budget, limited only by our imaginations. And I think that's working in an entertainment school where, we deal with film scripts and TV scripts and things like that. That's something that we're always really kind of proud of to mention, is that our special effects budget is unlimited
and limited by our pencilers' backs.
Our pencilers what?
Yes.
Back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Back
there's the old argument, Alex, right? It's easy for the writer to write, the armada approaches. But then the artist is like, yeah, right. I'm going to draw 3 ships, and the rest of them are going to be little tiny little things right here. There's your armada.
What is the minimum amount of ships to be considered an armada?
Right, yeah.
What
was it?
When you're talking about blowing up the parking lot, it was just kind of like, yeah, that's totally fine. Why is the artist crying? Why is he not crying?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see here. I guess we'll call an end to the stream.
All right. Two comments.
Okay, please.
David says, "Thanks, guys."
Absolutely, David. Hey, thanks for joining us, Dave.
Please
join us again and ask us some hard questions.
Standby River Roll says the business of comics would be a great show.
Cool.
And they'd also like to know if you are expecting any new merch. / they want that coffee mug.
Well, I'm gonna have to get on our CEO / social media / wearer of lots of other hats as well. Coffee mug. I'm guessing they want the Silverline logo on the coffee mug.
Probably.
I'm going to message the CEO right now and say there's been a request for Silverline logo.
What my thought process is going into future Kickstarters. If we do another flip book, we need to do a partner bundle where you get a pair of like Silverline branded flip flops along with it.
Flip flops. Yeah. Yeah. So everybody who's watching, please don't forget to click the heart, click the like, click the shares. Click the follows. We're not on YouTube tonight. I am going to download this from Twitch and put it up onto YouTube. So if you're watching the replay on YouTube, please don't forget to hit follow. Looks like we got another subscriber tonight. So whoever you were, thank you very much. Yeah, hit the like and the subscribe and all that other kind of stuff. I need watch right now. Okay. And please don't forget the Kickstarter that we have going on. We're still trying to get to 175 backers, and we've got about 69 left to go. So please get over there and back and share and do what you can for that. We've got 9 days left on that. So keep your eyes posted, because Barb is talking about other stuff that she's going to be introducing. And so until then, we'll see you next week. Make mine Silverline.
Make mine Silverline.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Oh, Tommy's here.
Oh.